Bonjour from Paris and welcome back to the podcast. So today's podcast we have a very special guest, Luke Treston. So Luke is one of my oldest friends. We are friends from when I was a small child, back 4 or 5 years old, all the way through school and secondary school. And in our 20s, we managed to stay in touch here and there. So as you'll gather very early in the podcast, Luke isn't the type of person to say this himself, so I'll say it for him. Luke is doing really well. He's moved from odd jobs all around Mayo, from plastering, plumbing, bricklaying, working in concierge, and as a waiter in Ashford Castle, moving kegs. He had 7-8 different jobs, and interestingly, he loved all of them. He talks very well about all of them. And particularly the one in Ashford, he talks about it as being the best time of his life, the most fun in his life. But he's moved from all those odd jobs and being unskilled. In his own words, he says he was unskilled and wasn't really fully qualified in any of them, to the corporate world, to Zurich. And he's doing very well in a corporate job in Zurich now, in the area of recruitment. Luke was always a grafter. He worked on the farms, he worked on pubs, and how he went from there to Zurich is a fascinating story. Because me and Luke are old friends, if you want to skip to minute 35, 40 to minutes 1 hour and 20, that 35-40 minute period of this podcast is absolute gold. I learned a ton from what he's saying, and it's very inspiring, and I think an awful lot of young men in particular needs to hear what he's saying there. He talks about how his people skills and things that weren't valued in other areas are extremely valued in his career now, and it's helped him move up the ladder and be very successful in recruitment, like I said. So because me and Luke are old friends, we do spend maybe 20 minutes, half an hour just getting into it. We talk about what music he liked back in the day, why he was such a big Eminem fan. We talk about physical training. One of his friends taught him how to lift weights properly for the first time when he was about 21, how he got into that. We talk about snowboarding in Zurich and driving through the mountains. Luke took me on a drive in and around all the hairpin turns, and I felt every one of them up the mountains when we went snowboarding. We talk about curiosity and working so many odd jobs and what that taught him. What he took away from each one of those experiences. He took away key life lessons from each one of his jobs that didn't seem like it was that important at the time, but when he puts it all together and he describes recruitment, every one of those jobs was so important. We talk about concierge in Ashford, how he became good at that, how he became very tuned in so he'd earn more tips, and how to get people to like him. He gives a very fascinating and detailed description of what his actual job is now. Recruitment, it's not something that any of us really understand unless it's explained to us properly. I certainly didn't understand it, and he goes through a detailed explanation of what exactly he does on a day-to-day basis and why it's so important, why it's so valuable to so many different companies. We talk about how his mentor in that job trained him, coached him, used the skills that he already had, making them more valuable by actually ensuring that he was using them in his day-to-day work in the office. So he had the skills, the mentor taught him how to use those skills, which is crucial, and I think the value of mentors is so important. His one here teaches him really valuable lessons. We talk about how to build relationships at work and some of the phrases that they use in the company that he's working for now. Always be the new guy, always be curious, and better never stops are just 3 of them. I found these so interesting and really applicable no matter what type of job you're in or what career you're in. We talk about imposter syndrome. Sometimes when things are going very well for you, you think to yourself, do I actually deserve this? Am I about to be found out as a bit of a fraud? Is this actually me? I've struggled personally with this a lot, and Luke talks about his brief struggles with that. Sometimes when things are going well, you feel like, I don't actually deserve this, because you're not used to a bit of success, or you're not used to good things happening to you, whether it's in career, relationships, the sports field. Imposter syndrome is one of those things that is under talked about, but it affects an awful lot of people. Then we move on to incredible travel experiences in Costa Rica, Sri Lanka, Dubai, Dubrovnik, what they taught him and why he values those experiences so much after having them, even though he didn't think he would have been that interested in them before he left. Now that he's left Ireland, he's far more interested in Irish history. You'll notice that this is a common theme within the podcast with my guests. once they start becoming a certain age, you start getting far more interested in history and the lessons it can tell you about today. Luke left Ireland, so he says he misses Ireland and he likes looking up what exactly happened in all the rebellions in Irish history. And then we finish off with the closing question of what advice would you give to your younger self? This is a fascinating podcast. Again, I think this is one that many men need to listen to, particularly those minutes from 35-40 to about 1 hour and 20. I really recommend you listen to this, even if you're not interested too much in our preamble at the start or the stuff at the end. That stuff in the middle is absolute gold. When I was editing this and I was looking at it on the computer again, listening to it, I was taking notes. I was just so interested because I can learn so much from what Luke is saying in that period. So I really recommend that you go through that in detail. So finally, before we jump into the podcast, I'd like to thank everyone for the massive reception to Killian's one last week. If you want to help grow the podcast, you can do it in 2 ways. Either you become one of my online clients, so search on the social medias, you'll see plenty of details about what my clients have done and what they've achieved with their physiques and their health. So if you want to help the podcast, seriously think about becoming one of my online clients as I'm traveling here through Europe. The second way to really help the podcast grow, if you're taking value from these conversations, is to simply just leave a thumbs up either on Spotify or on YouTube, or to subscribe. So that is really, really important. It's so simple, only takes a second, and it'll really help the podcast get seen more, recognized, and to grow. So thanks for watching. Please enjoy this conversation with Luke Treston.
But do I ever look at the camera?
Look wherever the fuck you want to look. It doesn't matter.
Alright, okay.
Alright, so 3, 2, 1, live. And welcome back to the podcast. Today I have one of my oldest friends, Luke Treston, and we're shooting this podcast. First one I haven't videoed or recorded in Ireland, in Clamars. So to start things off, Luke, how are you?
Not too bad.
So the first thing I'm going to say to you is remind you of something. You were actually the first person I ever knew. Well, one of my oldest friends, right? But you're one of the first person I ever knew. And cousin, yeah, third cousin. You're one of the first people I ever knew who had a weight set, right? So you had weights before anyone else had weights, really. I think we were only, what would it have been, 12, yeah, 15. In the old house in Castlegar.
Okay.
And you were the first person I ever knew that had a DJ set. Do you remember the Pioneer DJ set you had?
Yeah.
Why did you have the Pioneer DJ set?
I don't know, it wasn't a real DJ set.
I know, but it was still pretty advanced.
And
people had.
I'm tone deaf, you know?
Yeah.
So I was no good.
But
I know I had one, yeah.
You used to play the Eminem show a lot. I remember you used to be booming in your room.
Yeah.
Were you still, are you still as interested in Eminem as you ever were?
I'm interested in old Eminem.
Yes.
I don't really like new Eminem. I don't dislike him.
Yes.
But I like old Eminem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's a huge difference between celebrity or artist at the start of their career versus when they get a bit of success.
Yeah, of course. I liked a bit of the... You had a hard time back then.
Yeah. You were at the concerts as well, weren't you?
One of them, yeah.
But you were a huge fan.
I was a huge fan.
You weren't a normal
I don't
fan.
really know what I'm talking about it, but I was very bleached hair, earring.
Yeah, bleached hair and earring. I had the bleached hair and earrings as well, but not because of
big baggy jeans.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But my brother Brendan and Johnny Garvey, huge Eminem fans as well.
They like new Eminem.
No, they were the old Eminem as well.
They think they are. I just have with Johnny Garvey and Eminem. It's more the newer stuff.
Yeah.
I like real old stuff, yeah.
What was the old stuff? The Marshall Mathers LP?
Before that even. I like that one, but as well, what was it? The Slim Shady LP.
There was the Slim Shady LP, then there was the
Marshall Mathers LP. And
then
the
Eminem Show?
Yeah, and then I was sort of getting a bit...
But what I remember you playing in that room mostly was the Eminem Show. It was like the Haley song.
Bad memory.
Do you remember the Haley song?
Yeah, but I was playing it, but I was mostly back further, because there was actually another album before that as well.
There was?
But I don't even know, I never had it, like. Yeah.
That was like his come up album.
There was 2 of them before that, yeah.
It wasn't really famous
in
Europe.
No.
But I remember watching a documentary before it was really famous. Why did you like Eminem so much back then, do you think?
I don't know, actually.
What made you want to go to the concert and buy the albums?
Jeez, I don't know, actually.
Do you know who my first ever album was that I owned? Was Get Richard's I Try.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
I was just about to say it.
Well, so you would have guessed it without even...
Yeah, it was with the broken glass.
Yeah.
I would have guessed it.
Yeah, I was only 11, I'd say. And I think Jared Conboy was actually the one who made a counterfeit version of it. I paid him like €10. Do you remember the
You
old,
didn't even buy it.
the old CDs? No, I didn't buy the album. I got him to make me a counterfeit one. He used to sell the...
But how did we know?
Sell them.
How do we know it had that cover?
Because probably listen to it on Spotify, and now these days we know that that's the album.
But I thought I remembered the cover then. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just think I
You
do.
probably do remember the cover, but it wasn't mine. Mine was a counterfeit one.
Okay.
And Tom Mitchell made me the old Fall Out Boy. Do you remember Fall Out Boy? Did you play him in the car?
No.
When you started driving, what music did you play in the car?
Oh, awful rubbish.
Yeah.
It was rubbish. I didn't even know what it was.
Dave Ryan had the sound system. Did you ever have a sound
Just
system?
like DJ Rankin or something.
Yeah. Holding me kissing me.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I did.
And let's go to the beach.
Yeah, that was a good song.
It was fucking brilliant song.
Beach
And
one.
Tiesto before Tiesto went mainstream.
Agile for strings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another one, not the Agile for
Silence.
Yeah. And we used to play it going out to Moore Hall.
We played it everywhere.
Yeah.
You have a great memory.
I do for obscure details. Apart from the DJ set, so I mentioned the weight set. You've always been, so what's unusual about you in the fitness sense? Right, I ask all my guests about fitness.
I'm sure.
It's my fucking, it's my thing. But most of the people that I've talked to have played some sort of sport to keep fit. You
Yeah.
always had an interest in keeping fit and going to the gym, even though you didn't play any sport.
Would you remember I
Did boxing.
did boxing for about 2 years and I did rugby for about a year.
Who did you do rugby with?
In Ballinrobe.
Was
But it was difficult because of the people over there. You know, we were coming over from a different town, so we never really got on very well. It's a shame, you know. Like, you know how things were.
There's the Colts now. Would you play it now with the Colts if you were?
But I didn't really know the rules, to be honest. I just used to go for the crack.
And you were.
And boxing was the same. I was no good. I just went for a while.
But you were physically tough.
Yeah, I was a good fast runner, and I could run into people.
Yeah, and you. and you could fight.
Yeah.
Pretty early.
Well, there was a couple of fights in Ballinrobe. At training, yeah.
Yeah. And did you, so, but they were. I suppose now that you say it, they were the sports that you probably had interest in.
Yeah.
But even like your, since you've came here and in Ireland, like you've been interested in like climbing and the gymnastic stuff on the rings.
Not really. You could say it's only I haven't really done any sport
not as
since I was 14.
Yeah, but not as a. I don't mean as either have I.
No, but even not. I climbed a wall 8 times in 10 years.
And the snowboarding.
You know, I've done that for someone in Switzerland. It's hardly at all like. You know, I wouldn't really have done a sport, let's say, since I was 14.
Agreed, but they're still physically
Yeah, I suppose.
demanding
Yeah.
activities.
Yeah.
So you could play them down as in you're not Olympic standard or professional standard, but you've still been you've still been very active.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I always like to do a bit.
You find it hard to sit still.
Jeez, I don't know.
No,
I like a lot. I like to relax a lot.
Yeah, but
I suppose I want to do so. I like to be out and about as well. Yeah.
So with the trainer or the physical activity, would you always be doing something?
But I never started the gym till I was 21.
Right. Apart from the dumbbells at the house.
And I sold them when I was 18.
Okay. So what did you?
So I probably had the dumbbells for a few years and then sold them because I moved and then I didn't go to the gym at all or do anything. No sport.
Okay.
Nothing at all.
So when you did start going to the gym, what did you start doing first?
The machines for pregnant women.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff in the gym.
In the leisure centre.
Yeah, you know those kind of gyms
I
then.
do, yeah.
Until one day Jazz seen me in there and he said, you should work out with me. So he brought me down to the weights.
He was the first person.
And then I could lift really heavy weights then. And I never knew I could because I didn't know I should.
Brilliant. And what exercises did he show you?
Oh, just bench press and shoulder press and that. And I remember doing a pretty heavy bench press like for the first time.
Yeah.
Probably because I had spent ages on the machines. But then, so that was what happened. And that's how I really got into the heavyweights. I enjoyed that then.
And did you enjoy the weight training with the dumbbells and barbells a lot more than the machines?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Because you could lift heavy, more control of them, like.
Yeah.
You could feel them, like. The machines are. I don't know what I was doing on the machines. Probably just afraid to go down to the other end.
Yeah, like a lot of people.
Yeah, you don't know what you know.
That's very common.
Yeah.
So, did you notice your physique or your body changing when you started lifting the dumbbells?
Yeah, it was much better, yeah. Well, it's way different. You couldn't compare it.
And what did he teach you in terms of did he teach you technique or did he teach you?
I think I had the technique
programs
naturally. Not naturally, but I think he just more pushed me on, got me to do it
Yeah.
Do you know, you should do this one.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I never did that, and I just do it, and it was good.
Right.
So I went with him for a couple of years, I think.
Okay.
On and off, you know.
Yeah. Well, most people's weight training journey, would call it, is on and off.
Yeah.
There's very few people stick at it year round. So how many times a year, how many months of the
Four
year?
times a year.
How many months in the year were you sick of the weight training?
I think I was doing it all the time nearly, but you might have a week where you wouldn't do it. And then you might have a month where you do it 4 times a week.
Yeah.
You know, and you might miss a month. And I remember I hurt my shoulder then for 2 years and I couldn't do any shoulders.
Yes. How did you hurt the shoulder?
I think I did arm wrestling.
We arm wrestling.
Everyone.
Did you win?
I won most of the time. Except for when I ended up making an ass of myself, you know, with arm wrestling a few people after the other.
Okay.
And then I couldn't win at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, but but I think I damaged it and I had to get something done with it in the end.
Yeah. I remember John Broderick was always a massive man of the arm wrestling too.
Yeah, there was a few people that
Did you
were.
ever arm wrestle him?
I don't know. I can't
I
say.
remember he was lethal at them.
He probably couldn't beat me.
We'll have to set that up.
Yeah.
So, alright. So
As I heard in the last podcast about fact checking.
yeah,
Someone has to
fact
fact
check.
check things,
Yeah. Someone has to fact check these. There might be a Clamaris fact checker already set up.
Yeah, it probably is.
So with the snowboarding, okay, snowboarding is one of my favorite travel experiences I've ever had. I think it's absolutely epic.
It is.
Every part of it.
It is.
Like from the equipment to
The views.
the clothes you're wearing, the views going down the mountain, the way you forget. It's one of those things like playing a Gaelic football match, or even I get a coach in a Gaelic football team. You forget everything else that's going on in the world, and you're in one of the best places in the world for winter sports. And did you start with skiing or snowboarding?
Do you know what the funny thing is? I went to the mountains once when I skied for a day, and then I went snowboarding. And snowboarding is the hardest thing I ever learned. It's the only thing that I could never, like driving a car, driving a motorbike, going to the gym. I couldn't play rugby, but you could go and have the crack. You know, you could do things. But snowboarding was the only thing that I had to spend weeks and weeks and weeks at, and almost crying, and like begging my girlfriend just to leave me alone.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing I ever learned.
So when you say almost crying, do you mean from the pain or the
No,
frustration?
from the frustration of not being able to do it.
Yeah. I remember my very first day snowboarding. I literally couldn't get 5 meters.
It's
The
horrible.
whole way over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say similar things about a lot of other stuff as well. It's like jiu-jitsu. They say the first 6 months you're basically just tapping out all the time. You look smaller and weaker than you. If it was easy, everyone would do
But
it.
it's funny, most things are easy like that are games. Like, you know, like going for a bike ride or doing a mountain bike, like you could do a bit of that, like anything you can do. But it's probably because it's all stuff you learned when you were a child. Whereas the snowboarding was not comparable to anything else, so you had to, it was a complete new thing.
But when I did it, and I felt it, how much I loved it and how much I was into it, I thought that this is something that nearly everyone should experience. Not everyone's going to be able to do it 100 times, but an awful lot of people listening to this will be able to experience it 10, 20 times.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible experience.
What I was thinking when I was doing it, when I was learning, I was lying on the ground complaining. I was looking at everyone else going past me on snowboards going, it couldn't have been this hard for everyone. I said, if it was this hard for everyone, no one would be doing it. But apparently it must be.
I'd say it is.
Yeah, it was. For me personally, it was it was so hard to do. And even in 1 year, when I kind of could do it, when I'm back next year, I couldn't do it.
And when did it start to click?
Oh, only kind of this year, maybe.
Why? What do you think was the thing?
I think the lessons.
Okay, so do you wish you got lessons from David?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have 2 boards now. And how often do you go?
I'd say, I mean, it depends. I mean, if I had a week off, you'd probably go every day, maybe. Do you know? But normally I only go once every week, like at a weekend, 1 day, twice a month.
And the mountains here.
I kind of from January to end of March.
But you're in Switzerland.
Yeah.
You're based in Zurich. So the mountains here are world famous. Okay, so I went to unbelievable. What was that called?
The town was called Engelberg.
Okay.
And the mountain was called Titlis.
Okay.
Funny name.
Funny name, yes. And you said St. Moritz is also close.
Yeah, well, like Engelberg was an hour away, but like St. Moritz Davos, Lax, Grindelwald. They're all like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
And they're all ski resorts.
Yeah, they're famous.
So famous. I've heard of all of them, and I'm no skiing or winter sports aficionado or anything. Like most people have heard of those places. You know, whether you're into winter sports or not. What's it like having all those so close by?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. But I think my
do you take
favorite
it for
part
granted?
I don't think I take it for granted. No, I think I appreciate it.
Okay.
My favorite part is driving there, like driving on the mountain roads.
I've experienced that.
Yeah. It is the best part. Well, not the best part. I mean, it's part of the going there. Like
it is, and one of the great things about snowboarding or skiing isn't actually the snowboard skiing.
It's the whole
it's
day
being on the mountain.
Yeah.
It's just being on a mountain and looking around you and like feeling of like awe at your surroundings.
Yeah.
Because they're so unique.
Yeah.
Like you're never going to experience anything like snowboards.
But people from over here say the same about Ireland.
Exactly.
I speak to people all the time that are on about Ireland. It's the most amazing place in the world. They look at it and they go there. They never forget it.
Agreed.
So that's I think it's probably it's always what you're not used to.
But most of the people listening to this will be from Ireland. So I think for someone coming from...
Is this not global?
Well, hopefully.
Joe Rogan listened to it.
But most people listening to this will be from Ireland or even from like Connacht or Mayo.
Yeah.
I would definitely urge them to experience snowboarding. As in, it's skiing. Snowboarding or skiing as one of the best possible travel experiences you can have, whether in Switzerland or somewhere else. So you drive into the mountains. The mountain, when you're driving up the mountain, it's a lot of hairpin turns, very, very sharp. You enjoy that?
I love that. Yeah.
Why?
I think it's because you have to brake very hard coming in to go around the corner and you get to accelerate out, but you get to do that 50 times in a very short, it's a short accelerating and a very short brake and a turn, and the same again and again and again.
Almost like rally.
Yeah.
But when the roads are very, very good.
Smooth.
Very
but if you drive anywhere else, you cannot. If you keep accelerating, you can just keep going fast. You rarely ever get the chance to do a hairpin and accelerate really hard, but then have to brake really hard again straight away and go around another corner. In Ireland, if you were driving, the roads are windy, but you'd never have to merely come down to an almost stop in a hairpin.
Okay.
That's what I like about it.
You never really. No, I agree with what you're saying. So like,
if you drive out to Loch.
So we've gone to 2 resorts, and notably, like, there's a lot of hairpin turns. Other notable thing for me who hasn't fucking clue about driving or roads or anything is the quality of the roads.
Yeah.
Like they're perfect.
Mayo County Council should come over for a look.
But they're perfect. So they're set up for the type of driving you're talking about, and that's one of your favorite parts of it.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I go there even without the snowboard.
Okay. Just to drive
the roads on my own. It's just a nice day out.
Is that since you got the car, or was it?
No, in this car, but I used to do the other car as well.
Okay. And does this car that you have now, do you find that particularly enjoyable?
Oh, it's much more enjoyable.
Why?
This was made for it.
Okay, the Audi was made for...
Yeah, the Quattro,
Yeah. So is that one of your favourite parts of the day out to snowboard?
I think it's close. I think it's very close because I would drive there for that and come home without snowboarding. So obviously when I'm going to snowboard, it's nice. You get to do that to get there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've never done that. I've never driven to the bus or getting a somewhere else. But the Europeans do drive a lot faster than Irish.
Yeah, they're good drivers too.
Yeah.
And it's funny, a lot of old men driving like that on the mountains.
Yeah, you were saying that to me.
Yeah, old men in nice cars driving very fast.
Which is gas.
It's nice to see.
Well,
it gives us hope when we're old.
Yeah, well, in Ireland you'd be thinking that, well, not just in Ireland, I think anywhere you'd be thinking the older you get, you start to slow down and get a bit of sense.
I've seen some nice cars with some old men, driving really, really fast and really enjoying the roads.
Okay, so just on that, so you mentioned the last day, and I forgot about this. You had a motorbike in Ireland.
I had a lot of motorbikes.
Why did you have a motorbike?
I like petrol, I suppose. I like engines, and I like cars. And then I don't know why I wanted a motorbike. I think a few of us just decided we'd get one between us. So we bought one between us.
Well, like snowboarding, it's not the rarest thing in the world.
No.
But it's still not common.
No, but I wanted it, I suppose, a few of us wanted it, so we bought one between us, and then after like 2 weeks we ended up having to buy a few more.
You bought one between you?
Yeah.
How many?
4 of us. I can't remember, 3 or 4, but we bought, yeah. And then, I think it was only a few weeks later, then we had to start getting our own ones, because we liked it so much. And then we ended up just driving around, and then we went to the track a few days, you know, like
Where was
up
the
in
track?
Belfast.
Worth it for the day out.
That was great, yeah. And then we went to Belfast a good few times, and then we went to Mondello in Kildare. And then I stopped driving on the road completely and bought a track bike, just for the track. And that was really good then. But then I suppose it was awful expensive. Like, it was an awful expensive day out.
It was an expensive hobby.
Awful, it was too expensive for me at the time, and I couldn't really afford it. Plus I fell off one day on the track, got a bit of a scare, and then it was kind of expensive and the bike had to be fixed up, and it just never really happened again then.
Did you get hurt?
No.
You just had a bad fall?
Oh yeah, it wasn't even bad compared to people who do it better than me.
Yeah.
You know, but it was a bit of a rattle, like, you know.
Yeah.
But
what speed could you get up to on them?
well, I mean, like, you could do like 170 miles an hour on it.
What's the fastest you ever got up to?
170.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a nice feeling. But I wouldn't do it again. I'm old now. Older.
Yeah. But no more than the snowboarding, the motorbike, the car. It's adrenaline, isn't it?
I suppose.
It's the buzz of it. Like I fucking love adrenaline and I love the buzz of it, but not with engines or cars.
I love engines.
I'd be more like bungee jumping, adventure sports type of thing.
Yeah.
But what else about the motorbike? Because it is an unusual.
I suppose what I like about the bike.
It's not awful unusual, but it's still not many people have motorbikes that have been on them.
Yeah, I don't know. I suppose it was just like, you know, you're driving a car for a while and you just see people on motorbikes and you think, I wonder what that's like. And you know, the bike is different because, you know, when you're in a car, you sit in a seat and you steer it and you drive it, whereas on a bike, you lean. It's all about how, you know, it's like the bike, it's like you don't really drive the bike. Like when you're on the road on a bike or a track, you're kind of just looking ahead and you don't think about anything else, and it's where you lean.
So it's kind of like
you don't turn the steering wheel.
It's like the snowboard kind of, is it?
Yeah, you know, you're on a bike, you know, you don't turn it to turn around the corner. It stays straight always. And you just lean, your body leans the bike over and makes it go. You know, so it's a different feeling. It feels like it's kind of...
Okay, so the wheel doesn't actually turn.
No, it actually turns the opposite way. You do opposite lock, which I couldn't believe. So if you're going right, you turn left.
Right.
And when you go left, you turn right. It's very... Most people don't know that. I mean, obviously people who like bikes will be laughing like...
Yeah.
You know, but that's what I couldn't believe. So if you want, you don't need to steer at all, you can just lean. But if you want to actually make the bike go down fast, like this way, you would turn it the other way, and it would make the bike fall in.
That sounds mad.
Yeah. And like, it's a different feeling. Like, I miss the bike so much all the time when I see them, but I never get one again because they're very dangerous, yeah. And I like to go fast, and it's just not really worth it now.
Do you find it hard, like when you're on one, not to go fast?
Oh, I couldn't not go fast. And I know everyone who was with me was the same. Like once we'd go out for a drive, everyone would just lose the run themselves.
Of course.
And drive them very, 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 very fast.
Yeah.
All the time. But out there.
Well, it's hard not to go fast on a fucking snowboard.
Yeah, but maybe if it was on a bike now, I'd probably be afraid.
Do you think?
Well, I've got a bit more, you know,
cautious.
Slow it down, like.
Why do you think you'd be more afraid now than a few years ago?
Probably a bit smarter.
Dare you say it?
Yeah, but I probably would, you know.
Yeah, but you mentioned there curiosity.
So
you were curious about the bike. And that's been a theme for you, is like you like asking questions.
Yeah.
You're curious.
Which
I can relate to a lot.
Yeah.
And I brought it up in the first 3 guests as well. It's like being curious is a good thing. But in school you're nearly told not to be curious. Don't be asking too much questions. Just do what you're fucking told.
Yeah.
You know? But do you think your curiosity, it's definitely got you in trouble, because it's got me in trouble as well. But has it been worth it?
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because I don't think you learn anything if you're not curious.
Yeah, but people do learn anything just by being told what to do.
But there are people that are very good at following the rules.
And you're not.
No. Do you know?
Why do you say you're not good at following rules?
I don't know. I like to just do my own thing, like. Suppose it's a hard one to answer.
It is.
Maybe you like following the rules if you know what the rules are there.
why they're there.
Yeah, but in school you don't know what's going on. Like they're just. Well, I don't know if that makes sense either. Like, but,
It does.
You know.
It does. It's
Yeah.
rules for the sake of rules.
Yeah.
It's like Jordan Peterson says, follow rules, but don't follow stupid rules.
Yeah. That was it. That's a good one. So.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Like what I think of what I thought of when he said that was, you should follow the rules, as in, you shouldn't be a renegade for the sake of it and cause trouble for the sake of it. But if you're told there's a one-way corridor system,
Yeah. Do you remember that?
super rule.
We had that in the college.
Loads of schools had that. I think most schools had simple rules like that. But like to follow stupid rules for the sake of it wasn't your thing.
No.
And it still isn't.
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. Stupid rules. Yeah.
Why did you say that?
Rules are made to be broken. You know.
They are, but a lot of people find it hard to break them, don't they?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, we'll move on a little bit. We'll come back to that.
All right, okay.
We'll come back to that. You've had, I don't know, for one reason or another, probably because we haven't stopped talking since I met you on Friday, but for one reason or another, we've brought up all your jobs that you've had. Okay, so you've had the working in foundations and concrete.
Yeah.
The delivering kegs and driving.
Yeah.
And the favourite job you've ever had is in Ashford, you said.
Yeah.
But you talk well of all the jobs, really.
Yeah, I think I love them all a bit.
You haven't said, oh fuck me, I'm glad to be rid of that. You've actually liked them.
Yeah, I used to always just like all the jobs. I think like I didn't like school so much that I just couldn't reach work.
Right.
You know, so I worked when I was in school always like, you know, but when I was in school I worked, you know, in Paul Hunt's in the evening.
That's right, yeah.
I worked in Hanley's at the weekend.
That's right.
And I also worked on Fridays and Saturdays doing concrete because I was in LCA. So I was working, I earned as much when I was in school than I did in the first 2 years out of school.
That's crazy.
Because of all the, you know, like the evenings and the weekend and the Friday, Saturday.
And you always loved working?
I think I did, yeah.
Were you a good worker?
People used to say I was. I did, you know.
I remember they said in Hanley's. I worked with you in Hanley's.
Yeah.
I wasn't a good worker.
I don't know, was I good, but like, you know, I just didn't like school, so I wanted to make money and just work like.
Why do you think you had such a, like, drive to work more hours? Because that's uncommon.
Probably because I was so rubbish in school.
I can tell you as well, I didn't have the drive to like work.
It's probably because I was no good in school, so I knew I was able to work, so I just thought I'd work. Like, you know, at least that I could do any job and do the work and get them done, whereas in school I couldn't do anything. Like, I couldn't get anything done.
But theoretically, school is getting you ready for work, isn't it?
Not in my eyes.
No, I don't agree either.
It didn't teach me. I don't think I learned anything in school.
Where did you learn it?
I learned it at work. I learned everything at work. You know, people skills, dealing with people on building sites and on the road and in pubs and, you know, all that kind of stuff. The hotel. You learn an awful lot of people things and
people skills.
Negotiations and...
Yeah, I have a fair bit written here on the thing about people skills.
Yeah.
That's your biggest strength.
It's probably my only one.
Why do you say that?
Well, like that's all my jobs have kind of been for people, like. Maybe that's why I moved away from the building sites and stuff, because there wasn't enough people interaction. Do you know?
But, say, like, I look back at my time in Hanley's, and I think I've done this like many times in the last few years, and I think I wasn't even a good barman. You know, I got the job done.
Why weren't you? Why do you think that?
Why do I think that?
I don't think you think it, do you?
I do think it, I do. I definitely don't fancy myself.
But you were probably like me. I wasn't a great barman. Like you, we were just doing it and we were able to do it.
I knew some very good barmen.
Yeah.
I trained them.
But we weren't this kind of barman.
Sully and my sister Caroline, they were great bar people, and they were.
But me and you,
I knew working in Neve as well, Neve Higgins. Like I knew working in there that these are really good at their job.
Yeah.
I never felt like I was.
But I didn't feel like that either. It was more of a hobby back then, like a bit of a weekend job. And
an awful lot of fun.
It wasn't like, and I don't know what I don't ever regret that I haven't kept it up or been a barman or been a mixologist or something like that. I was probably a bit like you. We could do it and have the crack with the people. We weren't really an expert in barman. I mean, we were pulling pints and throwing out vodkas and Red Bull.
Vodka and Red Bull.
In the Celtic Tiger.
Pretty much.
But that's all it was really. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a barman, and I never was. I don't think, especially when I went to Ashford to make real barman. who were
Right.
proper barmen.
Okay.
I always thought after, like, they're barmen.
Yeah.
Not me, like, that wasn't really me. But I think it was more just a learning curve and, like, learning about real life.
Okay. But before I give my opinion on that, what do you think you learned about real life from working in a bar? Because an awful lot of people where we're from, Clonmars, like fucking, I love Clonmars.
Yeah.
An awful lot of people where we're from have bar experience.
Yeah, everyone kind of does. I think
Not everyone, but a lot.
What did you ask me? What did I learn from it?
Yeah. What do you think you took from bar
I
experience?
just
Because part of it is toxic as fuck.
I think I learned you have to deal with people when they're drunk.
Yeah.
And you don't want to piss them off, you need to kind of keep things going smooth. Do you know, it's better not to have an argument with someone.
It usually
It's
is.
better to...
But at the same time, you need to be able to win an argument.
Yeah, without having an argument.
Yeah. So how do you do that?
I don't know, I think, you know,
I remember having a drink thrown at me one night.
maybe listen to people. You know, if you listen to someone rather than try and force them into something.
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually funny. I remember working back in Hanny's, like, and you'd see the dramatic change in personality the more drunk someone got.
Yeah.
As they come into the bar. Back then, everyone seems to go out on Saturday and Sunday.
Friday, Saturdays were like, they've never been as good since.
I think, from what I know, I don't go out much in Clonmars anymore, but like from what I know, the town is pretty booming again the last 2-3 years at least.
Oh yeah. Well,
from what I
since
gather.
COVID went away probably.
Yeah, from what I gather. So like it's still probably the best.
Would it never be like it was back then? Remember like 2004, 5, 6, 7?
We're gonna say that though, because of hindsight and just a bit of nostalgia.
No, but people had more money then.
They did.
Do you remember like back then everything was one grade?
But they used to burn through an unbelievable amount of money. I remember do you remember the little bottle bar down in the back of Hanley's? Remember you had the main bar, then you had the little bottom
You
bar.
worked down there.
Yeah, where all the lunacy would be.
Yeah, that was the best part.
Before cameras, phones and all that.
Yeah.
And I would sell maybe 12 bottles of vodka, 3 or 4 bottles of Jägermeister, 3 or 4 bottles of Sambuca. You'd go through 2 full crates of 7-Up as a mixer, and you'd only do this in 3 hours. It'd be like from 10 till 1.
Yeah. Because everyone was drinking on there because you could smoke, I think.
Yeah.
You could smoke down there, couldn't you? No.
It wasn't legal.
But you could smoke because it was kind of like an outside area.
It was like but it wasn't an outside.
No, but in
area.
Ireland, you know how it is, like, it's kind of like an outside
It's
area.
actually like that in Berlin too. Everyone smokes inside. It's completely illegal, but everyone smokes inside all the pubs and all the nightclubs. Rules out the gap. Yeah. But bar work is a brilliant place. It's probably as good a place. It's as good a place as you can possibly be to learn people skills.
Do you remember when I went in there first? Because you see, I always kind of wanted to work in a bar when I was young. And then one day you were always collecting glasses, remember? And you were busy or something, and I said I could cover for you. So you asked Damon, and he said, yeah, I can do it. So I was loving it. I was like 15 or 14, I don't know what age it was.
Yeah.
I was collecting glasses. I loved it in there for the night, going round, you know.
Yeah.
The music was on and it was buzzing.
And you got to see people who were older than
Yeah, you were loving
and
it.
a lot cooler than them.
And I was collecting, and I think then all of a sudden, then I just started going behind the bar, like doing things, because I just pushed my way in a bit.
Yeah, and an awful lot of my friends did end up working in Hamleys at one stage or the other. But could you say anything that you learned from bar work? Or even the foundations in concrete, or the Ashford, or the kegs? Is there anything that stands out to you that think, geez, I learned that and it's actually helping me now in recruitment in your work now?
I don't know, I just think everything, all the jobs I did were like just teaching me something that might not be relatable to anything. Do you know, it's like, but just like, you know, getting up early, travelling somewhere, working hard, you know, like doing bits and pieces, you know, like doing that concrete and stuff. It's awful hard, like carrying shutters, tying steel. But I was working with lots of like Lithuanian and Polish, and they were awful crack, and I really liked working with them, and I was kind of getting to meet them. But then I also got to I started just using the laser level and all the, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I used to end up just doing it even though I didn't know it. You know, like, so I would be like setting up all the shuttering and using the level and things like that. Whereas you kind of put an engineer at that job, but it's awful kind of simple really, and I learned a lot about that side of things. Okay. And then when I worked in plaster and I could try and do a bit of plastering, and I kind of could do it a bit. And then block lane I did as well. And then the block lane I could. So if I had to build a wall now, I could manage it just about. Or if I had to plaster some bit of a shed or something, I could try and do it. Or, you know, tie steel. Like lots of little things, you know, that I never need to know. But I think I just learned so much little things about the world of everything.
Yes.
You know, like it's...
Yes, and you learned how, like, maybe how they're connected.
Yeah, and then just working with different kind of people. And now what I see in work, people are kind of very cautious and it's very corporate, whereas back then on the building sites and things, people were really like very, you know, they could insult you or say what they wanted, and it was very, you know, people could bully people and you had to kind of stand up for yourself or people would make a fool out of you.
Yeah.
You know, they would send the new lad off for a glass hammer or skyhooks.
Yeah, or the floating tube.
Yeah, well, I think I like to learn about how not to be made a fool of.
Right. Okay, so that kind of banter.
Maybe like, you know, street smart kind of thing. You know, where you'd have to be smart. If someone asked you something, you'd want to think about it long before you'd actually do it in case it was a stupid thing. Whereas now in an office in a corporate company, that stuff wouldn't happen. But it's nice to have the knowledge in your head.
Yeah, so basically that...
I think I learned a lot on that time, like after school. You know, and working in that kind of an environment.
The banter.
Yeah, the banter and the going on, like, kind of makes you wise to things.
Of course.
Yeah.
But none, like... Most of it was good-natured banter.
Oh, sound.
And some of it was nasty.
Yeah, it was nasty enough, kind of.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, it's the sort of stuff you wouldn't get away with now.
It's hard to draw a line and say, okay, this is just a bit of crack and this is a bit more...
I mean, it's a bit of crack, but, like, maybe, you know, some people were probably taking it hardly, or, like, you know, upset about things, like...
Yeah. Jordan Peterson talks about that a lot.
But I think it's also a good way to grow up. It's a good way to learn and become a bit tougher, like, as opposed to, you know, maybe if you just go to a school and go to university and then go into like a corporate job with a HR, you know, it's a lot different if you don't really go to school like me and you always are working on building sites and doing things and working in companies that don't even have HRs or, you know, like rules. You know, it's a bit like more like the Wild West kind of thing. You know?
Yeah, I do. I know.
Yeah, and maybe
and for me personally, like, I know when I was age 16 to 22, and some of the people listening will be that age bracket. That's exactly what I needed because I was a bit soft, or a bit naive.
Yeah,
and would take that out of you.
And I always felt because when I was 14, I was on a building site. When I was 15, I was working with plasterers. You know, every weekend I was with plasterers. At even 13 or 14. You know, just sweeping out the rooms and doing the bits, and I'd hear awful language, like, you know, and awful, like, insults. No one insulted me because I was young, like, then I was very young, you know, so people were nice to me, but I'd see awful stuff going on and awful stuff being said to people, awful language, and, you know, it made me realise, like, it opened my eyes as a child, like,
I got that in the pub.
You learned it that way. So I learned, yeah, it's like, you kind of learn, like...
It's not good to be too sheltered.
No, you're as well off to be a bit aggressive, like.
Yeah, and exposed to a few lunatics.
Yeah, I think you need to be around mental cunts.
Yeah. And you said interestingly enough today, you said if you had a son, you'd love him to go back to...
Oh yeah, go back to Ireland, like, and, you know, go onto a farm, maybe pull out a calf, or...
Yeah.
You know, like I did, like...
Yeah.
Because I was always on a farm as well, even though we didn't have one. My neighbour and my cousin had one, so I was always on that too when I was 7, 8, 9, 10. Even though I wouldn't consider myself a farmer or farm background. Yes. I was always at it, like, I was always there.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a good thing maybe for a child to see, especially in Switzerland.
Of course.
Where they live in
or any city.
Yeah. You know, you need to see a bit of the shit.
But it doesn't feel like shit.
No, I mean actual shit, like. Look, I remember before we were standing at the back of a big slurry tank and it was clogged. And myself and my cousin, we had to, like, we were trying to move it out, but it ended up all coming out on top of us. And it completely lifted. It lifted us off the ground and it put us back and we were lying in shit. But it's clean shit, cow shit. It's clean shit.
I remember you telling me that story. I remember that distinctly.
But I never forget it, you won't either.
I remember you telling me that story about the thing being clogged coming out.
Yeah.
It's like something from Father Ted.
Yeah, it was. And it was like dark. On a winter's evening, or not winter maybe, but probably a dark evening anyway. I don't know when you spread slurry, I've forgotten.
And never too warm in Ireland.
No, but that's why I think it's like all of them little things are really good for, you know, because like school is one thing, but I think
Experience.
Experience is probably what makes people.
Of course. But like, you're after naming some spread of jobs.
Yeah.
Some spread of
I did roofing as well.
Okay.
Yeah, with your neighbour. I used to do it with him on Saturdays for maybe 6 or 7 months.
Aiden.
Yeah.
Which was great. Hilarious character.
But he's a hard worker.
Oh. All these jobs,
Yeah.
they're grafters. They're very hard workers. All these jobs.
But I was only with him a few months, and he used to I'd be doing slating, you know, on the straights. Because, you know, he'd be doing the corners, he'd just show you how to do it. And you just have to do it. Because once someone shows you it's a straight line, you can follow it. Obviously the corners must be mentally hard to do. You know, so even a few months at roofing, you could do a few slates, like you'd be on the roof slating it and things. It's nice to know that I've seen all that. I'd never do it again, hopefully. Like,
it's probably a while since you thought about it, is it?
it's actually not really. I think about them a lot, these jobs.
Why?
When I see people on building sites here, you know.
Okay.
I always remember doing that.
So you would look back at your time in construction and farming and the kegs and the bar work, you'd have fond memories of them all.
Yeah, but except for when you think about it like that, all the jobs I did, it was risky because I actually did so many jobs but never actually mastered any of them. Which is a risky thing, you know, getting up to 25, 26, I had no skill, even though I had done all of those jobs, but I
why did you move from one to one without...
just got sick of them.
Without committing to one?
Like plastering, I just got sick of it, block cleaning, I got sick of it, the roofing was kind of the LCA school job, the bar work was school. Do you know, like then, like the recession came as well, so I couldn't really do building site stuff, so I had to do like a bit of van driving.
You enjoyed the van driving with the kegs, you were saying, driving around Mayo?
Yeah, but I also delivered coal as well, remember in Keynes for 2 years.
Tough going.
Yeah. And you know, they're going to the farmers with all the meal and all that.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah.
But
carrying coal upstairs.
Yeah, and you told a very funny story the last day about the gas tank in the back of the highest.
Oh yeah, that was a personal. That was a personal. I won't even mention that anymore. That was when I had to go pick up a motorbike of my own in Donegal.
Yeah, but what? You had the heater.
There was no heater in the van, so we had a super sir strapped down in the back of the van, turned on, and it was snowing. We had to have it because the inside of the glass was starting to freeze.
So you had the gas.
The flame on in the van to keep the windscreen thawed out. That was dangerous.
Yeah.
It was well strapped down, but if we crashed, it would have been like probably a bomb.
Yeah. It was like having a bomb in the car.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was risky enough, but I didn't think much at the time.
No, but you like risks.
No, but going back to. I suppose the recession was probably the main reason to move away from the construction, now that I think about it. I know I kind of got sick of them, which I did, I changed a few times. Yeah. But I think the time I left the building Block Lane was because of the recession.
Yeah.
It was like 2009, there wasn't really much work.
Okay. So, but like it's nearly, I won't say like some of your life, most of your life, you haven't a clue why you're doing things at the time.
No.
You look back and say, oh, that's why I did that.
Just doing them because they were there.
Just living.
Yeah.
So we'll move to your current job. Okay, so I told you
my current job is
one of your one of my favorite lines that you said to me when you were I was doing some online coaching with you a couple of years ago was you said, I came out here to wash pots and pans.
Yeah.
But you're not washing pots and pans.
No, but
how did you end up in recruitment? And what is recruitment? I don't even know what recruitment really is.
You've asked me about 4 questions.
I have an idea.
Yeah, first of all, I was working in Ashford and I met a Swiss girl, and then she asked me to move over here. So I said I told them in Ashford I'd leave for a few months and I'd come back. And the general
manager, you loved your job now.
I loved it, and the general manager said if you go to Switzerland you'll never come back.
What was your job in Ashford? Just
concierge.
What's that?
So the concierge, what I liked about that job, that was my favourite job, because people would just ask the concierge for anything.
Okay.
Stuff that they want, so if they needed, to be picked up at the airport by a car or a helicopter, I would arrange it. If they wanted to propose to their girlfriend and they wanted to have, if they wanted to have champagne hidden somewhere in the woods, you'd have it arrange it done, or there was a lot of celebrities that would come and you'd have the bicycle ready for them and picnics and all this, and you'd be just walking around showing people the place and talking about the castle, and I learned all about the history, and I just loved going in every day into the castle, in the suit, after coming from a building site, delivering coal, all clean and speaking to these rich people. And it was really the best time of my life. And that's what I was doing in Ashford for 2 years, or a bit longer maybe. And it was a nice change from driving vans, delivering coal, delivering kegs, working on building sites. You know, now I was clean, I never had to pick up anything or carry anything, and I just arranged things for people. I was an arranger.
Did you feel like at that stage that, geez, I have people skills?
Oh yeah, that's when I really learned it. Like, I was really good with people and getting tips and, you know, like loving speaking to people and people listening to me. And, you know, guess they would know that you know what you're talking about in regards to the history and the castle and getting things done. And, you know, like, we'd have to put plans in place for people who wanted to go on a tour. So you'd have to show them a map and explain the history of the place, and you know, you'd be speaking about the whole country, and it was just unreal to be at work rambling about a map, you know, like, and talking about stuff like in our area where we're from.
Yeah.
But they're coming from America, and they're like, everyone who came's great grandfather was from somewhere in Ireland. So it was nice to just spend all day talking about that. I used to love going in every day.
Because you loved talking.
Loved talking, and I think I liked the castle. I remember people who worked there used to say they were hoteliers or whatever, but I used to always say I'm not a hotelier. I work in Ashford. I would never work in another hotel. I wasn't a hotel person, I was an Ashford person. Because I never worked in a hotel before or after. I don't see myself as a hotel person, I see myself as I was an Ashford person.
You loved that particular
place. I don't think I could have gone anywhere else and done it.
Well, that particular hotel is such a part
of
Mayo, of our part.
That's why I liked it.
Of South Mayo.
Yeah.
It's like, it's in our blood nearly, you could say.
Yeah.
So that was
Ashford. That was my life in Ashford.
And so...
I got a job there as a waiter, not a concierge.
Okay, what's a waiter in Ashford?
A waiter, you know, as a commie waiter. I was a commie waiter. You know, in a restaurant.
Well, I obviously know what a waiter is, but like, what's the difference between your waiter and the concierge, and how did you move from one?
Oh yeah, well no. So actually, a friend of mine worked there, Ted. And the funny thing is, Ted asked me for about a year to move to Ashford because he said, "I know you love it there." And I said, "Ted, what would I be doing in a hotel?" I said, like, "That's absolutely mental." And he said, "You would love it out here." And he kept telling me, and I was delivering the beverages that time, and I gave him my CV, and then I said, "Don't give it to him. I changed my mind." And then I had a really bad day on the truck, and I texted him, I said, "Give the CD in." And I got an interview. And it was the first time I ever did an interview, because I never had to do interviews for other jobs. You know, they just, just fall into them, kind of.
Because you know someone.
You know, and they just like, geez, they were stuck for people. Yes. So then I went out to Ashford, and I remember in the interview, I loved every second of the interview. And when I came out, I was buzzing, like, inside. And I knew that was amazing, like. I don't know why, like, it was because they asked me tricky questions and how would you handle situations, and I was able to give them examples from all of my jobs. I gave them examples from Hanley's Bar.
Right.
You know, they said, how would you do, could you give me an example when you had to use teamwork in your job? And I said, very fast, you see, because I hadn't planned, you couldn't plan. And my first ever interview, and I go, "Oh, how could I work within a team?" I said, "Well, when I used to work in the pub, say if you're filling a Guinness, but you overheard someone else order one, you throw it on for your colleagues so it's half ready." Do you know? And then he says, "How would you streamline a process? Or how would you make something easier for people?" I said, "Funny enough, I actually deliver kegs to this hotel." And I said, most of the drivers arrive and then they walk around and they look for people to sign it. But I found the person responsible for orders, and I got her mobile number. I asked her, "Do you mind if I ring you when I'm getting close?" And she said yes. So every time I would be coming, I'd have her ring. She'd actually be just arriving at the loading dock when we got there. So it made things much faster, and I said she really appreciates it. So it was nice to have an example that was actually involved in Ashford already.
But you only had those examples because of how varied you were.
Yeah, and I only thought of them on the spot. So I remember when I left the interview, I was like, I love that. That was really good. Like, and then I got the job as a in-room dining waiter. You know, the room service. You know, bringing the tray up to the room.
Right.
And then I did that for 2 years, or like a year or something, and then then I moved to the concierge.
That's interesting. That's extremely unusual. Is that you love interviews or negotiation, and interviews like a negotiation, but I actually love them as well. I've talked to my dad about it. He said that you're unusual in that as well. I love sitting across the table and the negotiation part.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
And I think it's nice to be asked something that you don't know what the person's about to ask.
Yeah.
And you have to think very fast.
That's what this is like.
Yeah. You know, and that's what the concierge was, because you never knew what someone was going to ask.
Okay.
You'd be there seeing someone coming up to you. I used to think, what is this person going to say now?
The unexpected bit of chaos.
Yeah, and then when they'd ask something, you know, you'd have to figure it out. But going back to why I moved from the waiter into the concierge, I used to just like helping guests so much. So when I'd be doing in-room dining, I'd have to go to each room, you know, to service the minibars and do all that. I'd be always meeting guests in the hall, and they'd ask me a question, so I would wander off with them, helping them. So I'd be pure sidetracked with guests talking about the history and doing things. You know that I actually, so I can't remember this. Someone asked me to go to the concierge, or did I ask? I don't remember, but it ended up, they interviewed me for that, and they gave me the job. And that was way better than the room service. Like that was okay, but it wasn't really for me. But then the concierge took off, and it was really good.
Okay, you mentioned something there. I have to go back to it. So you said you were really good at getting tips. Everyone wants to get tips.
Yeah, well, I know that. I was just very good at helping people. I probably make people feel like they were the only.
But you still had the tip at the back of the mind when you were.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a shame to say it.
No, it's not a shame to say it.
But I think that you need to make someone feel like you just work there for them.
Yeah.
So when the guest was there, like you would remember their name for the whole stay, and they would literally think, "That dude, like he's always there for me."
Yeah.
But I have to do that with everyone.
Right.
And it's not me. I mean, the whole of Ashford does it. Ashford is famous for it, and I think it's the best hotel in the world.
Of course.
It's the best hotel in the world,
Yeah.
and it's for a reason, because everyone knows everyone's name, and everyone just looks after every single thing. You don't have to want for anything. But I always had a thing in my head when I worked there, because I couldn't stay there as an employee. I always felt a little something in me that I was always a bit jealous sometimes. You know, jealousy is not good, but I used to kind of sometimes say I'd like to be that person.
Maybe jealousy is the wrong word there.
Maybe.
Because you didn't wish bad on
No,
people.
okay, well, that's what I would call jealousy. It's not jealousy, but it maybe is a bit like, I remember people one day arrived, like a girl was arriving with her husband, and she thought she was going to afternoon tea, but she was actually staying. And I remember going, fuck, I'd love fucking, if that was my surprise.
Yeah.
Do you know, I wish I had that surprise.
Oh, yes.
But we couldn't even stay in Ashford because we worked there.
Okay.
So I always used to see the rooms and see how well people were looked after. I was like, I would love to be surprised with this or come into this if I didn't know it. Do you know? So that was always something that played in my mind a small bit.
A driver kind of motivator.
Yeah, it's funny, wasn't it? I don't know, it was something anyways that I just felt, I love working here. It was the best job I ever had, but I also would like to be those people.
Yes. Yes, because you saw the efforts that went in behind the
Yeah.
scenes to please them.
Yeah.
And to make sure.
And they always, when they brought them to their room, they would say, this place is unbelievable. I'd say, I know. But I would love to go somewhere and be like, this is unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's very interesting. So the tip thing.
Sorry, how did I go off the tip?
No, you're still out. You're still out. Your tip thing, you would say, to make every guest feel like they're one-to-one most special person in the hotel.
You know how you would...
That's simple.
But you would need to think ahead. You know, like we say, there was someone staying for a week, some wealthy American, and he wanted to buy cigarettes, but he was drinking in one part of the hotel, they were in another. So he asked me, could I get them from? But then 2 days later, I seen him walking into the reception, and I seen him go like this. And I spotted him, like, it was 20 feet away. I had a feeling he didn't have any. So I looked over and I said, I'll get them for you. You know, and he just goes like that. Because he knew that I knew that he needed cigarettes. So I went and got them from him, and he gave me like 100 or 150 euros or something. Like a half week's wage, however much it was. He gave me a lot of money for that, because he knew, like, that fella seen me coming in here, and he knew I needed my cigarettes.
Oh, wow.
And I only did sign language to get it for him.
Yeah.
You know, so that was, if you kept doing things like that for people.
But that's being very tuned in.
Yeah, you know, like that's what I used to like about it, all them little things.
So you were constantly scanning the environment to see what they wanted.
Yeah.
But you have to be very alert for that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
But it wasn't.
You don't have to be a maths genius.
And you don't need to try it. It's just if you're engaged in your job and you're enjoying it. I mean, that's what your job was like.
Brilliant, yeah, brilliant. That's very interesting. Okay, so back to the current job. What is recruitment, and how did you end up here? So you mentioned you followed a girl out here.
Yeah, at the time, my girlfriend who was working in Ashford. So I wouldn't be here without Ashford, but I wouldn't be in Ashford without Ted.
Yes.
Do you know? So Ted got me to Ashford.
So shout out to Ted.
Shout out to Ted. Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
he knows it too. I've told him.
He's a client in 100% 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and he knows it. And he knows too. He got me there.
Yeah.
So she was there on an exchange program from a hotel, from a school here, And then she went back to Switzerland and convinced me to come over. So I went over to Switzerland. And obviously I didn't have any university or any languages. And they speak German here. So it was a bit like, what would I do when I get there? So I thought
wash pots and pans.
Yeah, I would prefer to work in a bar and collect glasses. But the washing pots I would do too, because I didn't really care. It was more of a holiday. So I remember putting on my suit and a tie and everything and printing on my CVs and walking around Zurich, and it was snowing at the time. And first of all, I went to all the Irish pubs, and they were actually quite rude. Like, they were wondering what I was coming in for. They didn't need anyone. So then I went to the
Irish people working in the Irish.
Yeah, it was actually. But we didn't just click with the Irish people. It wasn't like, oh, fucking Luke from Mayo is in, like. Because most of the people around here were from Dublin, and they thought I was a fucking absolute culture cunt.
I do, I know what you
mean. So then I went to all the other hotels, and then I even asked Ashford, and Ashford, the marketing director at Ashford, she got me an interview in a 5-star hotel here.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but they only interviewed me for her. They didn't even give me feedback.
Okay.
They just did her a favour, they spoke to me, and then they just never said anything back. And then, this was going on for a few weeks. I was running out of all my savings because I sold my car and brought everything with me, and it was very expensive here. So I was running out of all my money, and I was going around in a suit like a plebe looking to wash pots in hotels and things. And then my ex, the girlfriend at the time, she was working in a hotel. So she asked them, and they said, yeah, I can collect glasses there. And I said, great.
Yes.
And so I signed the contract, and they said I would start in 2 or 3 weeks. But then something funny happened. It's hard to explain. My mother was getting her hair done in Ireland, and there was a woman beside her who mentioned Switzerland because her friend's daughter was living in Zurich.
Okay.
Something like that. And then my mother said, oh, my son is over there now as well. And what do they do? These people who you know. She was like, one of them is a teacher and the husband is a recruiter. So she was like, oh, recruiter, like maybe he could find Luke a job. And then the next hairdressing week came, or whenever it happened, and they were like, oh, I mentioned that to my friend, and they mentioned it to him. They said he should reach out. And then they gave me his details, and I dropped him a message on Facebook. And he goes, do you want to meet for a beer? So I met him for a beer. And next thing I realised that he was recruiting people that were engineers and fucking serious senior people, CEOs, directors. So I was like, can you get me a job? And he laughed in my face, because he was like, I can't get you a job. Like, you never even went to school. So I was a bit annoyed. But he goes, you worked in Ashford Castle. I love that hotel. And he goes, you're a concierge, so you could probably do recruitment. And I said, what's recruitment? He said, it's just speaking to people on the phone. Getting stuff done, like. So I was like, sure, I'll have an interview anyway. So I had an interview, 2 of them. And then they offered me the job. And then I rejected it. Because I said, I have the job got already in the bar. I'm starting next week.
Okay.
And then I got a load of phone calls from people who, like the person who interviewed me and this person who has a connection to Ireland, he's Scottish. He started ringing me and he goes, what the fuck? Yeah, he swears a lot because he's Scottish. He was like, you're an idiot. If you turn down this job, this is a commission-based sales job and you'll do really well. And he said, if you turn down this, it'll be the biggest regret of your life. And then I rang my dad, and my dad said, what did they do there? And I said, I don't know, but he told me I'll make a lot of money. My dad said, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't seem real. You got a job in a bar, that will sound, what do you really want? I said, I don't want to do a job I don't know. So I rejected it again, and I made an excuse up. I said, you're not paying me enough. So then they upped the salary. Yeah. And what I learned afterwards, they had to up the salary of all the other people in the office.
Okay.
So people, when I started, were like, we got a pay rise last week.
Because of you.
Yeah. So then I ended up rejecting the job in the hotel, and they were completely sound, because I think they were just giving me the job out of a favour for her. So they were like, don't worry about it. You don't need to work here, like.
Yeah.
And then I started in recruitment, and I learned that I wasn't really doing recruitment. I was working with medical device companies and pharmaceutical companies. And when they have a gap, I don't know, will I explain it in detail, like, or?
As much detail as
Because it's often boring to some people.
No, it's not boring to
Alright, well, we'll say now, if you worked in Boston Scientific, or Medtronic, or these companies,
Yeah.
GSK,
Yeah.
and if you were working like as a manufacturing VP, and someone in your team is going on maternity leave for 8 months.
Right.
You would have a gap. You would need like a manufacturing engineer with very strong skill set. You need someone to jump in, do work for 8 months, and then leave. So my job was to find the people in the companies that were looking for this skill set. Look at like had an issue, maternity leave, a sick person, or maybe a big issue from, like a notified body who audited them. Where there was something wrong, where they needed help from a temporary person. But then I would need to find someone who has a skill set, who was available at that time, finishing a project.
And qualified.
Yeah, and qualified, and then I'd have to qualify them on the phone. Okay. And then I'd have to send their CV to that manager. He'd have to approve the CV. Then I'd have to set up the interview.
So you'd have to click middleman and negotiator.
Yeah. And then provided the manager liked that person and that person liked the manager and he liked the project. Because don't forget, these engineers, these consultants, they work on projects. They do 6 months here, 6 months here, 1 year here. They also have the pick of a bunch, so they can do whatever they want. So then you also have to make sure that they like this project or they won't take it. And provided then that they liked it, they'd take it. And once they would say they would take it, we actually hire them on our payroll. So they work for us or my colleague, and then we subcontract them out on an hourly rate. So they work for an hourly rate, and then I make commission off the hour.
Okay.
And then the idea is to get a contractor working there, get another contractor working there, get another contractor in that company. And all the companies are only in Switzerland, but the contractors themselves come from anywhere in Europe. Mostly Ireland, funny enough.
How come?
I think because we have really good schools and good engineers, and we have a lot of American companies.
You hear that a lot.
Yeah. So they're all Irish, and I could click with them. Now, not all of them, okay, like 25% of them were Irish, which is a lot, like considering the rest are all over the place.
Yes.
And then that was it. So then I just had to keep ringing managers and companies and building relationships with them, because they're getting rang every day by everyone. You had to make friends with people. Sometimes they didn't need someone, but you'd make friends with them and you'd meet them for lunch, meet them for a beer, have the crack with them, ring them up another day, ask them how's their dog, build a relationship with them. And then in the hope that the day that they go, fuck, we need someone, they go, I'm going to call Luke Treston. Yeah. I felt like said he could help me out. So then they'd ring me like, Luke, you've been annoying me for months. We actually need a manufacturing engineer. We need the person to start yesterday. And they need to have this skill set, X, Y, Z. Oh, fuck, that's a hard skill set. That person doesn't even exist. And they say, well, that's what we need. So then we have to find the person and get them to take the job.
That's a brilliant explanation. I understand it now.
Did you understand it well?
I understand it now. I understand what you've said there. Maybe I don't understand the role fully, but I understand what you said there. And I didn't have a clue really, even though you've been explaining that to me all weekend. Okay, so I could go off on
it was very hard. Here. It was very hard first year.
So I go off in 100 different directions here, but you said building relationships with people. Okay, so we're back to the people skills thing.
It was 100% people skills.
This is really important for literally everyone listening to this.
Yeah.
How do you build relationships with people? What is people skills? Everyone knows the term, but what actually does it mean to you?
Well, I think
because your whole job is based around people skills.
I think you have to be a real person. Because most people in sales, when they ring, I can't say most people, but a lot of people, because I get calls all the time from insurance people, I get calls all the time from people trying to sell me something because I have a company phone, they must be able to get my number somewhere.
Right.
And they're just like robots. I don't see a person at the other end of the phone, whereas I think what I was trained by my manager and my company was like to be a real person. Like to speak about their weekend, tell them about your weekend, tell them how you ended up in Switzerland washing pots and started doing this job.
Yes.
Because then the people on the other end of the phone are like, fuck, this is Luke. He's actually a normal person and he's just trying to make some money and he moved country. So they buy into me. And I think then
you're saying there you're basically encouraging people to be authentic.
Yeah.
Be themselves.
Yeah, don't read the script. Okay. They used to give us a script when I started, but I couldn't read it on the phone because I'm dyslexic and I didn't like to read stuff because people would know I'm reading if I read.
Yes.
But I have to just speak without looking at anything and just chat. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just started making friends with them, and I think you have to be memorable. Because if no one remembers you, they're not going to ring you back when they need someone.
How would you be memorable?
Just be me. I'd be like telling them about my weekend snowboarding. I can't do it. My girlfriend is, doing my head in trying to teach me. It's really hard. Like, do you go much? And then they'll say, I actually snowboard, and I've been at it for 20 years. I can't remember how I learned. You know, I'm like, yeah, so you can't remember, but I know now it's hard.
Yeah.
So then they
So you're
remember.
engaging them in conversation.
Yeah, you're making them think about their own life.
Mm.
You know, and what was something I learned as well there from my manager, and as well, like, about being curious, asking open questions and asking them, like, what do you like about your job? And if they either love their job, they speak about it, but if they don't like their job, they speak about it.
Mm.
And sometimes they need a little release. They want to just have a little rant.
Vent.
Yeah, and I listen, and I'll ask questions off the back of what they say.
Mm.
Do you know? And then the conversation is really going.
Yeah.
Because, like, they're like, this person, they probably don't even think this person, they're actually just going because...
Feel like they're having a chat
Yeah.
in a pub or a cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. What was the question?
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I feel like I'm learning a little bit just listening to it. So, alright, so that's people skills, getting people to like it. You've had the gift of the gab, you know?
That's what people said.
We were talking last night, people have been saying that to you for years.
Yeah.
You've the gift of the gab.
I never know what they meant.
I think anyone listening to this podcast, they might recognise a little bit you have a gift for.
Yeah, but I always didn't know what they meant when they said that.
Well, a lot of the time it's not meant as a compliment. It's meant why don't you shut up?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like in school, certainly.
Probably, yeah. But then it wouldn't be the gift of the gap, it would be the curse of the gap.
But Irish people, do they have it more than others? They have a bit of a reputation for it, don't we?
We do, but the funny thing is, Irish people have a gift of the gab with people they like, whereas the people I worked with in Zurich were unable to place Irish contractors over here. Because Irish people were too close and too sharp to listen to someone on the phone.
Okay.
So people in our office were recruiting people from all over Europe very easily, but they never were able to work with the Irish. But I was, because I was Irish, and I think because I was more honest and straight up, maybe swear a bit. Do you know, because people in my office see me swearing on the phone all the time, because I kind of have to, if I don't swear, I'm not believable.
Okay, brilliant.
You know, dealing with Irish people only, like, because if you're not,
we actually mentioned this yesterday. How do you swear and talk fast and talk? I think the term is colloquially.
Yeah.
I'm butchering that, but how do you do that without sounding like crude or?
It depends just in the context. But I wouldn't never swear really in the office, and I wouldn't swear on the phone with clients and most contractors.
But we do throw fucks in.
No, but I would never throw them in. No, I would never use them in the office with clients or with candidates from Europe. Only with Irish people in the context of, I wouldn't fuck you over here. You know, they'd appreciate that. Okay, I like that. He wouldn't fuck me over. Like, you know, that kind of a context. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not just like, how's the fucking crack? Like, that, you know. Because if you tell someone, I wouldn't fuck you over, you know, or, you know, they're kind of like,
So knowing when to swear is a skill.
Probably. But no one.
Not probably.
But try not to swear was something I had to. I probably learned a bit in Ashford.
Curtail it.
You know, I learned in Ashford how to maybe speak a bit better and not swear, and then that was helpful here. But also when I got here, people couldn't understand me when I got here first.
Accent.
Yeah, I had to slow it down a small bit, speak a bit clearer.
Is this the slower Luke talking now?
Yeah, that was it. It just came out there.
Jesus.
No, but I when I first got here, it was a struggle. Like, people couldn't get me. So
I haven't spoken to you in person in a few years, but you know, sometimes in life you meet people, you have certain friends, and every time you talk to them, even if it's a few years, it's like back to normal. You know? I mentioned Colin Freeman. I talked to him about 6 years. We started talking. It was 5 minutes. It was like we'd never stopped talking.
But I probably got fast speaking to you.
Same with you.
Yeah.
Same with you. We started talking a few times over the last 10 years, and each time it's been like we never.
Yeah, and you have that with I have that with a few people.
But it's funny how little you've changed since.
But it's funny how little you've changed.
Your life has changed upside down, as is mine.
Yeah, but we never changed our person.
That's funny though. How do you explain that? Because how does life change without you changing as a person?
But I think life adapted to me.
That's an interesting phrase. Life adapted to you.
In a bit like, because I didn't have to change myself. Really, did I? I didn't have to pretend I was someone else.
No, but you still had to become a better version of yourself.
Yeah, I think I had to, you know, slow down with the speak and speak clearly. I was speaking to European people who couldn't really understand an Irish accent. So, you know, maybe you would say a word properly. You know, in Ireland we say everything is shortened and slanged. I had to get rid of a lot of that.
Okay.
You know, so I had to kind of learn that aspect of things.
This is an important point. This is a very important point. So how do you progress and like upgrade your skill set? For you, it's communication skills mainly, by the sound of things in your language. How do you do that while still staying true to yourself or still staying authentic?
That's a good question, isn't it?
Because you seem to have mastered it, and I'm happy enough to say that you seem to say I've done it as well.
But how does any? I think if you don't do it, you're fucked. You kind of have to do it.
But how do you do it?
Well, I mean, I have to slow down my talking because I talk very fast.
Do you think it just happens naturally if you experience enough things and put yourself out?
Yeah, because if I'm at work and people can't understand me, they would say to me, "What? I can't understand you." And sometimes they'd make up a thing. They're like, "I think we have a bad connection," and I'd be like, "Okay, hang on. What I was trying to say was." So obviously, I wasn't going to get very far if I didn't fucking just slow down and say a word properly.
Yeah.
So you learn that if I have to maybe articulate this sentence very clearly right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to. If I didn't learn, I'd be fired.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned there very important points. Something I'm just such a big fan of mentors.
Yeah.
People who you get to learn off people. Most of the time, very informally. And a lot of people know the importance of mentors, and they're always looking for a mentor. Your mentor in your job, what do you think he taught you in particular? Because you wouldn't know how to do your job without
I think he taught me.
Was he much older or younger?
He's actually younger, but he was very senior in the company.
How did he end up in the position to be, okay, Luke's my responsibility, I have to teach him?
He interviewed me.
Okay.
So the guy who arranged the interview, he didn't need to hire me, but he knew that someone else was looking. So he kind of set it up. And he also got a referral fee. He got like a 500 franc money for finding me. Do you know that we have a thing in the company, if you can find someone and they get the job, you get like a finder's, like bonus. So he got me the interview with his colleague. So my manager was in London, working in this recruitment company for 2 years, and he had decided to go over and open up the contracts business in Switzerland. So we had no contracts business, we had a permanent recruitment. I don't need to go into permanent recruitment, I think we know what it is. It's okay. It's high-end recruitment.
You've mentioned the contracts for
pregnancy
leave and things like that. The permanency is a permanent role.
Yeah, you're filling it, but they're awful senior CEOs, CFOs, managing directors.
Okay.
But we didn't have the contracts business, but this guy, my manager, was in London and he wanted to go to Switzerland and open up the contracts business. So he was planning to move for a couple of months, and during those few months he was interviewing people who were already based in Switzerland, but he couldn't really find anyone suitable. And then he was introduced to me for the interview and he liked me, it clicked. So then on his first day in Switzerland, it was my first day working in the office, we started together in Switzerland.
Okay.
To cut a long story short, after like 2 years, our company decided to close down the permanent recruitment. So they didn't fire everyone, they offered them jobs anywhere, in the US, in Asia, in England, in Germany, anywhere. So these people then, all the office got wiped out. So then it was just me and my manager and one other person.
Wow.
So there was just 3 people. But now me and my manager, we have built the office up to 12 people.
Okay.
So we've hired all these people together and we've trained them together.
But back to the
Sorry,
how did he mentor you?
Oh, he didn't teach me anything I didn't know.
No, but that's important for context.
But he taught me how to use it.
How to use what?
My skills. Do you know, as in like, he taught me about being curious. He taught me to, never stop asking questions. He taught me, to talk about myself, to open someone up. Talk about your hobbies at the weekend, snowboarding. How do you find snowboarding? You taught me the things on the phone. When you ring someone, hello, it's Luke here from blah, blah, blah. They don't want to speak to you. He taught me how to say, how was your weekend? People are closed. And then you just tell them about your weekend without them even asking. And then asking them, how about you? He taught me all this stuff and about being curious, and about being resilient. But it was all stuff I probably already had. But maybe he had to fine-tune me a bit.
Yes.
Because I couldn't have gone into that job and done it without him.
He coached you.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without, because it wouldn't be possible. But it was already my people skills, and from all the shitty jobs and the amazing job in Ashford, all of those things was where what he kind of seen them in me and was able to fine tune them to make them work. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for him, But obviously anyone in our company all has the same structure. We're all the same people. Everyone in the company is a bit like me. That's why when he interviewed me, he interviewed 15 people, but I was the only one he offered the job to.
Okay.
Because I was a bit like him. And he knew straight away on the phone, he's like, this person would be good.
Okay.
Do you know, and that's why, and he, you know, so that's, I suppose, he was my mentor and he's been training me ever since.
Okay, interesting, because mentors are so important.
Yeah.
You mentioned the brilliant, you've actually mentioned a few great quotes that you have at work in the team.
Oh yeah.
But one of them was always be the beginner.
No, always be the new guy.
Always be the new guy. What does that mean to you?
Like when I think back 5 years ago when I started, he was telling me what to learn, and I was constantly sticking at it and doing it by the book and remembering ticking off every box, you know, do this. Whereas sometimes you get complacent in a job, but if you always remind yourself to be the new guy, you'll always do everything right. What was the other saying we had? We were saying like,
I'd like to always be the new guy.
Always be the new guy, but we always say always be curious. And we always say better never stops.
Okay.
Because when you're doing well...
Explain them individually. So, always be curious. What does that mean to you? Because
when you're on the phone with like one of these clients, if you're curious about what they do and you keep asking questions, you'll find holes in their team. And sometimes they don't even need a contractor, but from listening to them, you can actually create a position.
Yeah.
Because what do you do? And they do this, and then it's like, but how does that work? And why is that? And then you go, like, that seems like it's failing. And they're like, it actually is. And you say, well, what if you had someone for just 3 months, an engineer that could come in and help? And then they're like, oh, it'd be handy. I say, well, actually, I know a guy, and he actually worked in another company, and I give an example of he done that exact thing, exactly what you're struggling with. And he goes, can I see his CV? And we don't have budget, but can I see it? And then I'd send it over. Next thing he would go into his procurement team and go, look, can we get budget for this person for 3 months? I need him. And then you have a job. Then you've created a deal.
Brilliant.
What was the question?
That all comes from being curious.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's from being curious. Because if you just have a conversation that's going nowhere, nothing happens. But if you keep asking questions, actually another thing my manager always taught me, it's like peeling back an onion. You know, you ask a question and then you ask another one. You're peeling back the onion, so the phone call is a constant peeling back the onion, digging in. And the more that you're asking the questions, the more that they answer, the more you're learning about what they do, and you're finding the flaws and the holes in their team, and then they realise they need someone.
Excellent. Okay.
So that's curious.
And then the last one, the third one you said.
Oh, is it like better never stops?
Yeah.
Because like, you know, sometimes when you get better and you do really well in a company, if you start taking your foot off the gas and relaxing, you're not better.
So it's about relentless.
Yeah, because if you're better, you're only better while you're fucking driving on. Like if you stop doing that, if you start to relax and take your foot off the gas.
You've mentioned complacency quite a bit.
Have I?
In the podcast, since we started. So is that something that is pushed on you in that company?
It is, yeah. And I think since I became a manager in the company, when I'm teaching people these things, it reminds me to be the new guy. When I'm teaching someone who's just started, it makes me think back and makes me be better. Or it's like sometimes I've been doing very well for a couple of years, but you start to get a bit lazy and complacent. But then if I'm telling someone new, you know, better never stops, I think I stopped a bit, so I need to be better.
Okay.
Because better never stops.
But to become complacent is obviously awful popular in sports, you know, the wolf climbing is always hungrier than the wolf at the top, and you're hungry and young, and then you get there and then you believe your own hype kind of.
Yeah.
But being complacent is the most natural thing in the world, isn't it?
And it happens from time to time, but you have to remind yourself, if you want to be better, like, you can always be better. You never get to a period where you're actually just your best.
Yes, and you're never perfect in your role.
Yeah, you can never be. There is no such thing as the best. Because it's like in our company, like there's uncapped commission. So the commission you can earn is actually uncapped. And I remember telling my dad how much commission I got, how much, and he would say, "Well, it's uncapped. Like it's not like you hit the wall, like at the ceiling, like." So like better never. I think like
that's brilliant,
isn't it? Yeah.
He was very smart to say that.
And he was a salesman too.
But he was very smart to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, you've done well, but it's uncapped, so technically
it's not like you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think there's probably a lot of other things we say, in the office, like,
Yeah.
but I can't remember, like, there's a lot of other things that we use.
But those are 3 good ones.
There are 3 good ones, aren't there?
Okay, so to switch gears a small little bit, so you've been talking yourself down all weekend. So you've been like, geez, I kind of fluked it. I just got lucky to get here.
Yeah.
Right? And you've said something like that a few times. Every day, sure, I just got lucky. Like, I've kind of fluked it. I ended up this job by a fluke.
But I did.
Well, we've heard your story now, right? And there is an element of luck to it. Ted, the girlfriends, the ex-girlfriends, the turning down the job in Switzerland.
The haircut. The haircut.
Yeah. There's a lot of luck. But you're good at your job.
Sometimes I wonder, am I?
Why?
I don't know. Sometimes I think, I don't know. I'm just trying to do my best and it just works. But obviously I must be good. Like I'm doing something right.
Yeah, agreed. But it's natural to kind of doubt yourself. I think anyone who's good at their job or good at what anything they're doing, they do have that bit of doubt.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I struggled with the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm constantly like, oh geez, I'm winging this. It's a bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
It's very common.
Yeah, I think I have a bit of that.
And it's healthy.
Probably, because maybe
But
too
too
much
much-
toes.
Exactly, but too much of it isn't healthy.
No.
Because if you think, oh, geez, I'm fully entitled to every bit of success I have and I'm nailing it and I'm the man, then you're in real trouble.
You are.
But if you're constantly, like I used to say a lot, and a lot of people pulled me on it, probably the way I'm pulling you on it, so like, it's not as much of a fluke as you think. There's an element of luck, there's an element of, geez, you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But you can't achieve anything without a certain amount of ability. It's not winning the lottery, like.
No, of course, because in the job I'm in, if you can't do it, you're out very fast.
So why do you think you mentioned luck and fluke so much?
I probably don't believe in myself a lot. Maybe, I think I told you the last night when we were speaking, I said, I feel like I'm doing well and everything's going great, but when my manager said to a room full of people on the stage, he said, if anyone wants to be successful, maybe you should speak to Luke and pick his brains.
Yeah.
And I was sinking into the chair because I was hoping no one would ask me because I have nothing to tell them because I have no clue what I'm doing in this job.
Yeah.
But maybe I actually do. Maybe I should, it's hard to, you think like, fuck, imagine if someone says to me after, like, how did you do well? I'd be like, I just went to work.
Yeah.
But maybe I should learn how to look at what I've done and maybe be able to explain it to someone.
God, you've done it very well here today.
I played with this.
But when you're on stage, now that you brought it up, you got a Rolex as a bonus for good performance, we'll say.
Well, they have a thing. So I remember when I joined the company.
But a Rolex as a bonus.
It's not a bonus. It's a prize kind of. So just sorry to interrupt you. When you join the company, right, they pay you a video, and our company is like a rocket ship. They say, if you're not in, it's going without you, and if you don't want to be on the rocket ship, get off. Because the company is going places. So they would be playing these videos, and they would say, if you do something X amount in a month, we get to go on a lunch club. It's a reward. Or you get to go to Ibiza. There's a summer trip. There's a Las Vegas trip. And then they said there's the Rolex prize. That's the most prestigious one. And I didn't care about Vegas or Ibiza, but I was thinking, fuck, I would love to be up on stage getting a Rolex.
Yeah. And
I seen that prize, and apparently you had to invoice over over £500,000 sterling to get that. And no one in Switzerland had ever done it.
So how do you mean invoice it?
Sorry, so like every time we place a contractor, they're on the hourly rate and we have a percentage that the company invoices. I make a percentage of it, but our company is constantly invoicing money. Like my job is to invoice money, get paid money from a client. But if I can get to $500,000, you get a Rolex. But no one ever got one in Switzerland. My manager never got one. And then we used to go back every year to the annual sales meeting in London with 500 people, and I would see these senior people in the company. Maybe out of the 500 people, 2-3 people getting a Rolex. And I always, so from day one when I seen the video, I was like, I want the Rolex. And then when I was in London every year, I seen these people go up who were like legends. And I always thought like, that must be unreal. And I never thought I could do it, but I wanted it.
Kind of like the Ashford thing.
The what?
Kind of like when you were in Ashford and you were like, wow, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
I'd love to be here.
Yeah. So then I just, like last year then I actually achieved, I So I was the first person in Switzerland since we opened in 2013 to do that. And then we got to go to Berlin for the annual sales meeting, and out of the 500 people in London, 5 people got one last year, and out of the 100 people in mainland Europe, 2 people got one. And I was actually the higher invoicer than the other girl. So one girl did like X amount, but still passed the threshold to win the Rolex, and I did more than her, which was amazing. So I was the highest invoicer in 4 offices of salespeople.
All by fluke.
All All because, my mother got a haircut or take off the extra. Yeah, so it was a really amazing thing to get that Rolex.
Of course, it's like it's getting a Rolex as a bonus.
It's a gift.
It's like a Wall Street type, Hollywood type thing. You get a Rolex.
Yeah.
It is incredible. So to move a little bit from your actual job or your career now to travel, you've managed to have some. I'm a huge fan of travel, as are many people, and as many Irish people as well. Irish travel.
Who are famous for
leaving
the country and traveling the world.
So you live in Zurich, Switzerland.
Yeah.
It's not a place really many people we ever thought of or heard of. The only thing I can remember of Zurich growing up was when it was on the rugby jersey, the Lions rugby jersey.
That's not even Zurich, is it? That's the insurance.
That's the insurance, yeah. So you've been to Costa Rica, Sri Lanka, driving Lamborghini in Dubai, Dubrovnik. As soon as you could afford it, you went traveling.
Yeah, but
why do you love it so much?
It was because of my girlfriend. Like, she loves traveling, and I would normally just go on a holiday where I take a plane to somewhere, stay at a pool, and fly home. Like somewhere in Europe. I would never go to South America or Asia.
Magaluf.
Yeah, I'd be a Magaluf, Santa Ponza type of person.
Yes.
Well,
you used to be.
Yeah, but she likes to do these kind of holidays, so I said, look, whatever you think, if you want to.
And the Magaluf Santa Ponza holidays, I think one of the most changing experiences of my whole life was when I went to Magaluf.
Oh yeah, there's
great with the boys.
But you drink too much and you don't see much.
Sometimes you need that.
Oh, you need them. I still need them. I could do one right now.
Yeah, I think traveling of all kinds is good, even if it's just a weekend trip to London.
Oh, you have to do it.
Even if it's just a weekend trip to Manchester. Even the 2 times I went to Magaluf, they were life-changing experiences.
Yeah.
When I look back, but go on about your.
No, but so she would like to be going further afield. That's the way I say. She wants to go to all the other places. So I said I'd like to go, but you'll have to arrange it. So she would put a whole plan together. She'd be very good at. We get this flight to here. We do 2 days here. Then we'll take up this car here. We'll go this place. And we'll drive. Yeah. So I was this is fucking mental. How are we going to do this? We're in Asia. What's this all about? And she would plan it out to a T. So I would just follow her and we would just do it. And they've been some of the most amazing holidays I could ever even. I didn't even know that you could do these things.
Tell me a bit about Costa Rica. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so either did I, obviously. But it's in Central America, and we had so much planned. When I looked at it on the paper, I was how are we going to do, how are we going to go these places? So we land and spend one night here, then we got a taxi way out into some river, and we went whitewater rafting. We went to be in the top 5 in the world. Whitewater rafting, stayed in a wooden shack with insects everywhere. It was crazy. And then we took a small little private plane down to the Osa Peninsula, which is 95% of the world's diversity is on this peninsula. And then we stayed in different hotels down there. We rented out a jeep and we had to drive through rivers and had to get there. And then we went on these tours in the jungle for 3 days at a time, staying in ranger camps, getting up at 3:30 in the morning to walk in the woods, to walk in the jungle.
So that you see animals.
You see all these crazy animals, green frogs, snakes, saw an anaconda hunting, saw crocodiles, massive crocodiles.
Anaconda?
Hunting, yeah. Yeah, so we saw a big anaconda, long as the room, big thick one, he was hunting, and we were standing so close to him, with the guy with us knew he was hunting, and because we could see some kind of a fucking big guinea pig thing in ahead of him, but the guinea pig thing couldn't see him. And he had his head was in a net, he was ready to go. But he still didn't go. We waited for ages and ages and ages. But obviously, these anacondas can wait for a long time. But he was ready to go. So then we had to carry on, and we just seen so many different animals that I didn't even know existed. These howler monkeys. Did you ever hear of a howler monkey? At night in the rangers camp, with no windows and no nets, like, and just in the jungle, you'd hear them howling at night, like the most haunting thing I ever heard, like a banshee, like, or something, like really eerie howls out of these monkeys. You should listen to the new shit.
But was the anaconda being close to that anaconda, was that not turn your skin?
No, I used to have a snake.
Skin called, did you?
I had a snake called Bob. Yeah.
When?
In Ireland a long time ago, but like, yeah, so I just, no. But we saw like insects and stuff, but anyways, not to go too much into it, but seeing these insects and to get to this peninsula, you know, after taking a little tiny plane and then taking a tiny little boat.
Does it change your mindset?
Oh yeah. And the people I met, like the guy that showed us around, you know, this Costa Rican fella, you know, he knew so much about the wildlife, and it's a third world country and they're very poor, but absolutely loves it, you know, loves the jungle. You know, so it was really cool. And then we went off to another kind of jungle and another hotel and another place, and we just travelled around so much and stuck to the plan and seen some amazing hotels. So we stayed in nice hotels but also stayed in the jungle. The first week was like jungle and living like a ranger, like a ranger's camp. And then the second week was like nice hotels.
Like wooden shacks type thing.
Yeah, ranger camps they're called. They're like, you know, where the people, so they are always going to have a poacher. There's a lot of poachers over there.
Yes.
So rangers always have to man the jungle so that they catch poachers. And we were staying in it with them.
Okay.
And then we had to walk we walked 17 kilometres one day, through rivers, you know, over cliffs. It was really hard, and it's like, you know, 30 degrees, humid, you're sweating. All of a sudden then it's raining torrential, and you're still walking. Then it's roasting again, then it's raining again.
That's in Costa Rica.
Yeah, so that was, it was, I think, and then meeting the people, you know, they were all so nice, like, and helpful. Like, when we were getting lost on the roads, we were about to cross a river in the Jeep, and this guy came running out, this local man out of a fucking little shack, like, trying to help us, saying, don't go through there, you need to go down there and go through there. You know, he got nothing from it, like, he's poor, like, he's in a third world country with no electricity, and he came out to help us in our Jeep. You think he could just sit and watch us crash, like,
yeah,
but he didn't. They were really nice, you know,
yeah.
Just wanted to help people.
Of course.
Yeah, so that was, you know, I think, opened my eyes. I don't think I would have done that holiday without her, with my girlfriend, like, because I wouldn't know. I mean, imagine if I just booked a flight to Costa Rica, like, I'd probably just stay in the city and just see it. And the city was horrible, I thought.
You got a unique travel
Yeah,
experience.
so that was, you know.
And then what was Sri Lanka like?
The same thing. Much the same type of a trip. Hiring a Jeep, driving
very
around the
different country, obviously.
Yeah. We stayed in like little places. Also, it was during the peak of COVID, so there was no pubs opened. But when we were staying in this little hotel, it was just a little hotel that could hold 12 people. There was only us there. And the owner was sitting with us having dinner. You know, like, he hadn't seen people. And I said, like, is there any alcohol around here? And he said, no. You know, we can't sell anything at the pub. But I said, but you must have some here. And he said, no, I can't give you any. I said, of course you can. I said, well, you can. And then he was like, no, I don't know. I was like, look, I just want, you know, something to drink while I'm on holiday. So he sorted us out with some guy who worked there with loads. We got enough for the whole trip nearly, of like, you know, like what we would call pucci, but their equivalent. So we had to bring this guy with us, a local guy, into his village. So we went into his village, and I was quite nervous. It's like what, you know, you see, you know, it's third world, there's no footpaths, there's no roads, it's just dust. And then I think what opened my eyes was, he goes, do you mind if we pick up my wife and baby? I was like, sounds, we picked them up. The baby was just after going to meet the local people for the first time ever, but the baby was so dressed up for the event. So I always think of them people, I know it's bad to say, but they're different to us. Them people live in them shitty towns, and you know, it's not nice, but really they still had a little baby all dressed up like we would have for a christening, and they were bringing it to the townspeople for the first time. So it was really nice to meet these local people, bring them in the car, you know, see the baby, and they were lovely people.
See the human element.
Yeah, the human element, yeah, I learned a lot.
I had a lot of experiences like that in South Africa.
Yeah.
A lot of experience. It leaves a mark.
It does, yeah. And you know, that happened on our third day, and after that the whole holiday was different.
Yeah.
Because I knew the people then, I felt like they were lovely, nice people, and I'd learned a lot about them.
It is amazing though, like how the people in South Africa, for me, they're living off solely.
Nothing.
€5,
A week.
€10 a week. Like.
Yeah. That's the same in Sri Lanka.
It it's like it puts all of your first world problems into perspective. And it's really hard to do that unless you actually experience it, isn't it?
Yeah, and if I wasn't with Sarah, my girlfriend, like I wouldn't have been in this place. I wouldn't have trusted that man and picked him up and brought him in for that put sheep, whatever their drink was. You know, because I'd be thinking these people.
But they do trust each other despite everything, don't they?
Yeah, I thought we were going to get robbed. Like, I thought we were going to be fucking tied up somewhere, and you know, but we weren't. They were just nice people that just wanted to help, and you know,
you'd love the man thing. I know.
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah,
you'd love it.
But I paid him. I gave him extra. He said whatever, but I gave him like 3 times the amount because it was nothing to us in these countries, you know, compared to them. So he must have been buzzing, like.
Yeah.
You know.
I did that. I was like, I mentioned it before. It's like you're in South Africa and everyone is just so desperate for tips.
Yeah.
And it's like the equivalent of €2 or €5 or €10.
Yeah.
And they're nearly. It's more than a day's, a week's wages.
It's more than a week's wages, yeah. So yeah, that was, you know, I suppose that they're the 2 big holidays I've ever had, and it opened my eyes a lot to the rest of the world. And I did scuba diving when I got my, what is it, deep sea, or, you know, or open water.
I've never done scuba diving, but the Lamborghini in Dubai, that must have been sweet.
Yeah, that was amazing. As I love cars, petrol and engines, and yeah, it was nice to rent out a Lamborghini for 24 hours, and we brought it. Most people hire them for an hour.
Right.
And drive it because they charge by the hour, and they drive them around around Dubai, around the city. And I was thinking, that's no good. I don't want to drive in the city. So I did research before I got there, and I actually found Top Gear videos, Fifth Gear, loads of car shows had gone there to the middle of the desert, this mountain on the Oman border that has the best driving road in the world, that goes up to the top of the mountain, the highest peak in the Emirates. And I wanted to go there, so I messaged the Lamborghini people and I said, I want to go there. And they said, you have to pay extra for that, and good job you told us, because we have sensors in the car. We would have cut the car down if you had drove there. So we agreed that I would go there, and they knew I would, and they gave me extra kilometres and different insurance and everything. And then we went through Dubai, but we went out into the countryside and we drove through all these Arab towns, shitty towns compared to Dubai. You know, people, you know, the Arab people there, it's not like Dubai like you see Dubai. You know, you're in the countryside. And then we got to this mountain and just drove it up, you know, these hairpin bends all the way to the top.
You driving fast?
Sarah wouldn't let me go fast, but she waited at the top, and I went all the way down to the bottom again, and all the way up again. Yeah, she could hear me the whole way. It was amazing, yeah. It was amazing, yeah.
But you said to me that once you had it done, you were like, oh.
Yeah, I think when I was driving it, I remember it was so uncomfortable and my back was sore, and I was like, it's nice, but I was like, if I could afford this car, I wouldn't buy one. You rent it for a day and it's nice, but when I see people driving...
I think that's the same with a lot of travel experiences, isn't it? Because I have my own travel experience. I wanted to go to these nightclubs or see these DJs or just see these history sites, and like it's like you're longing for so long. Yeah. And like someone could tell you, oh, it's not always cracked up to you or whatever, but that's bullshit to you. Why do you want to do it? And then you do
because you can't take someone else's word for it.
Yeah, and then you do it, and then the air is kind of out of it. And it's like, okay, I've done that now, and it's not.
Like when I was young, I would love a Lamborghini, and I still take one if I could, but I wouldn't really ever crave owning one of those now.
Yeah. So I think that's the same with an awful lot of travel experiences.
Yeah.
People think if you experience that, you're going to be hooked and needed all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Expensive food or expensive clothes or flying here or experiencing that, but you don't.
No.
Once you experience it once, a lot of the time,
you have it in your memory and you go, that was nice.
Yeah, and you move on. Yeah. But that I didn't know that until I actually started doing some of these.
But you can't tell someone that, can you?
Yeah.
You have to let
it's like when I bought an expensive watch for myself and expensive clothes for myself for my 30s. I really wanted to do it because I'd never done it.
Forever.
Then once I did it, I was like, don't see the point in spending €150 or €100 on a...
But there's no point in someone else telling you that.
I had to do it.
Do it yourself and learn it the expensive way. Yeah.
But expensive without breaking the bank.
Yeah, of course,
putting yourself in debt. Okay, so we'll start to wrap up a little bit. We're coming close to 2 hours. I know we've been talking for basically 72 hours now at this stage. But so you mentioned some books and podcasts that you've been listening to. You don't read, you were saying, but you've listened to what was it? Irish history is the main interest. That's what
I think Irish history is something I love a lot. You know, so I like to listen to.
Now, just before you start, this is a recurring theme with nearly every single person
Okay.
that I talk to. They love learning about either some historical event, some historical person, or some historical age, and it really helps them make sense of the world today.
Yeah.
So you've done that.
And I think I only got interested in Irish history when I moved here, because I wasn't in Ireland, because I missed it so much. So when you miss the country so much, you start to go online and,
Do you miss Ireland?
Oh, I miss it a lot, yeah. No, I always think of it, like, and I always watch videos of it, and that's why I was going online to learn about the history, so that I wouldn't forget Ireland in a sense. Like I wanted to make sure I knew it. But then the more I started learning just the whole history, the whole kind of 800 years of Ireland, or, I just listened to lectures. I think, that guy with the lecture, Trinity College. I've heard like 30 hours of some lecturer in Trinity talking about Irish history. I've listened to it all a few times.
What age in particular?
What age what?
What age is he talking about?
Oh, he's talking about all of the rebellions in Ireland.
Okay.
All of them, from when the Normans came.
You're a bit of a rebel yourself.
I don't know about that, but he's talking about every single rebellion that ever happened in Ireland, and I've actually listened to them all twice.
Why do you find it interesting?
I don't know, I suppose it's kind of Ireland, and it wouldn't be Ireland without that history.
Yeah, I suppose, but to phrase my question a bit better, you could learn about any type of history and it's interesting. Why did that stand out to you?
Because it's from where I'm from, like, I suppose I want to know our own history. If you don't know about Ireland, like, it's a bit, we should know our own history. And a lot of people talk about Ireland and the history and the troubles and all of the English, but no one really actually knows it, I don't think. Because I used to think I knew it, but I hadn't a clue. I knew 0.5%. When you really dig into it and you learn about it, it's really interesting. And I like to watch, from people, like in the Irish War of Independence, I like to watch a real interview of them on YouTube. So they're all dead now. But in the 50s, 60s and 70s, when they were in their old age, they've all been interviewed. And like, it's really nice to listen to them talking, because it's first hand. Instead of just hearing stories. But it's a shame all the people are dead now, but at least there's so much videos online, interviews of those people, like.
And what do you think it's helped you understand more?
Just how hard it was.
How hard life was?
Yeah. Like, we had a great time now.
We do. We have it so soft. Too soft.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I like to listen to, I suppose.
I'm a big fan of a philosopher called Søren Kierkegaard.
Yeah.
His quotes are brilliant, but they're very simple. They're not like off the wall or hard to understand. But one of them he's basically saying is like, things have got so easy for us in terms of like central heating,
running water,
plumbing, sanitization, all this stuff, that your job now is more or less to make life hard for yourself. To try and climb a mountain or go running a marathon or to the gym to lift weights. It's like, it's actually harder. Life is so easy that it's become hard because it's easy. Yeah. That you have to create.
You have to do, like imagine like in the olden Ireland, they didn't have time.
But the start of the 20th century, I love studying about World War I and World War II especially.
And I do like that history too.
From 1900 to 1950 is such a brutally tough time for people to live in. It's probably the most brutal time.
They had no time for holidays.
No. And they just, life was so fucking hard. Yeah. And that makes you feel better.
Yeah, and it's nice to see how hard it was for these people,
Because
I suppose maybe to make us appreciate it more now. Like, people would be dying for their country. Like, would anyone die for their country now? Probably not. Most people wouldn't.
I think a lot of people are missing a cause worth dying for. Not necessarily your country or nationalism or whatever, but just something that they feel, it could be religion even, something that they feel so strongly about, and then the life has no meaning because of that. They had such a sense of meaning that.
But they also, because they had it so bad, they were second class citizens in their own country for 800 years. They always wanted to change that. And they did change it, and I think it's a bit sad. Sometimes people complain about Ireland, but maybe you should think of what people have done to make it Ireland. I used to.
But every country has that.
I suppose. I mean, we like to complain anyway.
America has that. England has that.
And they fought for their independence. They got it, but they still complain. So you're never happy.
And is there any particular historical figure? I know Cahill, when he was on the podcast, mentioned he found Genghis Khan fascinating, a book he read about him.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
but
not necessarily someone you think is great, it's just someone
No,
you
but I
find
mean-
interesting.
But I like all of the people, you know, like Wolf Tone, Robert Emmett, you know, Michael Collins, different people from each rebellion. There's more people I can't think of right now, I'm bad, you know, with names, but like each rebellion kind of had someone. I can't think now, but there's a lot of, like, each time there was one, there was like someone who ended up dying from the
And
country.
you think they're worth knowing about?
I think they're worth knowing about, and I think they're names that everyone sort of half knows, but they don't really know, and it's really,
Like me,
Yeah.
you're mentioning them, I know all them, but I don't know enough as much as I should.
yeah, I think that one of the, Robert Emmett in 1803, he went to France to meet with Napoleon, and he met him a few times, and I think it was written down that Napoleon found him really interesting and smart. Do you know, but like, we all, you know, it's weird to think like back in those days, someone random from Ireland going over negotiating with this person, trying to help Ireland. And,
Most powerful man in the world.
you know that the French came over and they crashed the ships in a storm and they tried to help us, and there was a big battle in Castlebar, you know, with French. And there was, I'm confused now because there was also Spanish that came to help. A lot of countries tried to help Ireland because, you know, during that time they were overthrown royal families, you know, in the revolution, you know, I'm getting mithered.
Of course, yeah.
But like, yeah, so Ireland was looking for help from all these countries, and it's amazing to think all the countries that tried to help, but they, you know, didn't work out in the end. And I didn't know a lot of this history. I never learned it in school. I don't ever remember anyone telling me anything about any of this. Maybe I wasn't listening.
Yeah. No, I'm the same.
Maybe we weren't listening.
You know more.
Yeah, I don't know much.
Okay, so just to finish up, I'll ask you a question. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self, not someone else? What would you say to 20-year-old Luke now that you're 33, is it?
Yeah.
What would you say to him if you were trying to guide him on the right route?
But you know what, honestly, I wouldn't say anything to myself because that might change things. I think it's better not knowing and just going along with things and making things like, you know, if I was 20 or whatever, 18, said, and me from the future tried to advise me with something, I think it would fuck it all up.
Okay.
I couldn't really give him, I wouldn't like to know, I think, you know, not knowing is probably better, like, or not having, you know, just trying to do things. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes perfect sense.
You know, I'm glad I didn't know what I knew, that I just had to do it.
So you're glad you made all the mistakes?
Yeah,
because
I wouldn't regret one of them.
they helped you.
Yeah.
Because we've all done daft shit.
Oh yeah, and I think, you know, if it wasn't for the daft shit, maybe this wouldn't have happened.
Of course.
This podcast.
Yeah. We wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
It's like that meme, you know, they're like two of us sitting on the table and it's like, look at us, who would have thought it? Not me.
Yeah. But that's it, I wouldn't give any advice, I don't think. Do you know, there's nothing, you just will have to do it.
Yeah. And like,
make all the mistakes.
yeah. So the advice is make all the mistakes.
Yeah, that's probably the advice. Make all the mistakes you can.
Brilliant. I think that's a great way to wrap up.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, thanks man.
Alright, Kevin.
It's been a
It was
pleasure.
good, I enjoyed it.
This is hard work.
Not hard work, it was intense.